Today you're going to make a simple paper weaving. You need 10 strips of colored paper, a pencil, a pair of scissors, and some masking tape. I'm going to set 5 strips of paper aside, and then I'm going to work on the first 5 strips. These first 5 strips are called the warp strips. The warp strips are kind of the main part of the weaving. It's what kind of holds the backbone of the weaving. So I'm going to lay all 5 strips parallel to each other. Now, if you remember in math class, parallel means that they go next to each other, but they won't overlap each other. So if you have any strips of paper that kind of overlap, just separate those. You can even leave a little space. It's okay. They don't really need to touch. They're just going to go in the same direction. Then take a piece of masking tape and you're going to use half of the masking tape and tape those 5 strips. Press down, pick it up, and then you're going to fold over the rest of the masking tape to the back side of the strips. So this is the backbone of our weaving. These are called what? Right, the warp strips. So next we're going to take the weft strips. Those are the other 5. They can be the same color, different colors, it doesn't matter. I chose red. I thought the red and black would make a good contrast for the video, and so it would show up better. So if you want to do a high contrast, you can. If you want to do some that are kind of similar in the same color, you can do that also. So I'm going to use one strip and I'm going to alternate. I'm going to go over, under, and over. Then I'm going to take that red strip, the weft strip, and I'm going to push it all the way to the top. Then I'm going to take the second strip, and you need to go in the opposite direction. So if you go under the first strip, what are you going to do on the next one? You're going to go over it. Right. So look at our weaving. We went over the first one, so we're going to go under it this time. And by alternating, it holds it together. It holds the weaving together. So we're going to go under, over, and then under. And we're going to push that to the top. Now, can you see how it's the opposite? And that's very important, because if we went in the same direction each time, the strips would just fall out. It wouldn't hold it together. And this is very important. This is like a practice before we do our bags. That way you know how to do it, the bag, and when we take it off the loom, it won't fall apart. So we're ready for the third strip. Remember, you're going to do the opposite of the row above. So we're going to go over, under, and over. And then push that all the way up. I think you have it now, right? So I'm going to go over, under. Wait a minute. Do you see how that one looks different? I did that wrong. So if this happens to you and you see how this one and this one look the same, just take this row out and remember to do the opposite. I did the same instead of the opposite. So instead of going over the first one right here, I'm going to go under it this time. I'm glad I caught that. It does definitely look different, and that's a good thing to visually look at it and make sure that you're not going in the same direction. And then the last one, over, under, and over. Now make sure you push them all the way up, and you can see you have some excess paper. So go ahead and take a pair of scissors and don't cut really close to the weaving, just a little border around it. We're going to cover that with masking tape. And the excess pieces of paper just throw in the trash can. Now I'm going to shift it all back together and use tape. Well, that's not going to work. And we're going to use half of the tape for the bottom, flip it over, and tape the back half. And we're going to use 2 more pieces of tape for the sides, just so the strips won't shift out of place. So use half of the tape for one side, flip it to the other side, and fold it over. It's okay if you have a little excess tape. If you don't tear enough tape, go ahead and use the piece that you tore and just add a little extra to it. But if you have too much tape like I have, I'm just going to trim it with a pair of scissors. That way, if I left this, it looks kind of sloppy and that's not really good craftsmanship. So I'm going to use a pair of scissors to trim it up like this. Now you have one more step. What I want you to do is I want you to label with a pencil the warp strips and the weft strips. Remember, the warp strips were the backbone. That's the ones that we used first. So let me see. I think my warp strips were the black ones. So I'm going to write warp, warp, warp. Now the weft strips are the ones that you did the weaving with that kind of hold it in place. So I want you to label those weft, 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 weft. Now that you have finished the paper weaving, I want you to look at your student guide and follow the next step.